Jessen. You see the poster over there of Einstein. He once said to punish him for his contempt for authority, he was made an authority himself. I feel in the same position here. Let's see. You're probably going to have to forgive me because I'm going to keep fumbling around with this. I do too much software. Oops, I've lost it. I'm running I'm running two machines at once, and this is a whole new operating system for me. So, there we go. Okay, Robert Ingersol. First of all, I'll just make a quick insert for the Ingersol chronology project. I first got hooked on Robert Ingersol about 1998 or so off the Internet Infidels website. Started reading his material online. They have an online library, and they have all of his speeches, most of his lectures, and various materials from him, his interviews. And I just started reading this material, and it's like, this seems so current, so topical today. You know, it seems to be addressing the very issues that that I'm interested in now. And this was written back, 120, 130 years ago. It was just incredible to me. So, starting around the year 2000, I started assembling a chronology. Because I was curious, did he ever speak in my hometown, in central New York, in Syracuse and Utica, the areas that I grew up in and live now? And so I set about to find out, did he ever speak? And sure enough, I found that he did. The more I discovered, though, I discovered he was speaking all over the place, in various parts of the country, in North America, in fact. So I set about to gather this information in a computerized form, spreadsheets, databases, and started putting it online on the web. And the result of this has been the Ingersol Chronology Project. You can Google it and find out about over 1,200 lectures. We're closing in on 1,300 lectures that he delivered, as well as interviews that he gave, events in his life, when he got married, when he went into the Civil War, and when he went into the service. They were pretty much there, and they're backed up by citations to, actual materials of the time, newspaper clippings, things that people wrote, and I would try to capture as much as I can, try to make it as historically verifiable as I can. So in any case, from the chronology, I have discovered that he visited Canada at least 4 times. I know of 4, as part of 4 different lecture tours. As far as I know, he never did a lecture tour that was exclusively Canadian. He came somewhat close at sometimes, but usually it was part of a larger tour that was also in the United States. So the question I had, just like I was curious how well was Ingersol received in my hometown, how was he received in Canada? That's today's question. The first tour that we have, the first one that I know of, is in April of 1880. It was Ingersol's first lecture, the first time he ever lectured in Canada that's known. He delivered 8 lectures in 6 cities. It was part of a larger tour that included the United States, specifically in upstate New York, as well as Washington, D.C. So the first ones, after he came across the border from Ogdensburg, of all places, were in Montreal on April 1st and 2nd of 1880. From other sources, I know that these lectures were not well attended, and unfortunately, I have been unable to unearth any local papers that covered and said exactly what lectures he delivered. So this is not well covered. The Canadian Press of Montreal didn't see all the things I looked for. I went to the Archives Canada in Ottawa, looked for these lectures, couldn't find any Montreal papers that even mentioned that he was in town. They did, however, mention afterwards, after he'd been there, as you'll see shortly, because various people started responding. So it's sort of strange because you had Ingersol, no coverage, but then people responding to something they never covered. So, but I do know from certain, we'll see what the sources are here that talk about the Montreal lectures. Automatic justice for you. If I read software, this is what I get. This is what I get. This is my comments. Okay. While he was in Montreal, a Reverend Hammond started, I think it may have even been in one of his lectures, got up and started talking about how there was free thought thinkers in Atchison, Kansas that had been struck by lightning because 6 godly women had prayed, and so these free thinkers were struck, presumably dead. So Ingersol quickly turned around and said, "I will give you $1,000 in gold if you can back that story up with some evidence." $1,000 in gold back then. I checked the exchange rates. It's $20,000 now. So, or 22 Canadian. And so, quite a lot of money. But I do have coverage of subsequently later. Let's see if we can find it here. People wrote in, this is going to be impossible for you to read. That's why I want to be able to read this up here. And it goes, this was written into the Boston Inquirer. I'm sorry, I believe this is from the Montreal Star. I'm not entirely sure. This is from Ingersol's papers. I have, thanks to the Center for Inquiry in Amherst, their libraries, I have Ingersol's papers on microfilm, which I've been going through, pouring through, trying to get events for the chronology. But to pick this up, this is from his papers, and it's a clipping from an undated and there was no clue as to what paper it was, but it says this: "The $1,000 challenge by Ingersol to Reverend Mr. Hammond. Dear editor of the Star, Sir, there are many people in Montreal and elsewhere who are waiting with some degree of impatience for Mr. Hammond to return and redeem his promise, publicly made, that he would verify the story which he had concerning a building in which infidel meeting being held in a place called Atchison, Kansas, having been struck by thunderbolt in answer to the prayer of 6 godly women. It will be remembered that Colonel Ingersol challenged the truth of the account and offered to give Mr. Hammond $1,000 in gold if he would prove the story, as reported in the witness. The Colonel's challenge was made on the evening of the 2nd, 3 weeks ago, and Mr. Hammond has not secured the $1,000, nor has he offered any apology for the delay. The Reverend gentleman told the audience that he was going to get that $1,000. And it goes on, and subsequently, I never saw anything that he did get the grand. So. There we go. April 3rd of 1880, Napanee, Ontario. He did deliver Mistakes of Moses. This was delivered in the Napanee Opera House. There's only about 100 people in the audience. This is very unusual for an Ingersol lecture. Usually the auditoriums, from the accounts I've been gathering, the theaters were, if not filled, completely, they were mostly filled, if not filled to overflowing. But he delivered the Mistakes of Moses. I thought I'd just read a few things from Mistakes of Moses. "He who endeavors to control the mind by force is a tyrant. He who submits is a slave." And then this: "Who can overestimate the progress of the world if all the money wasted in superstition could be used to enlighten, to elevate, and civilize mankind?" And then this: "When every church becomes a school, every cathedral a university, every clergyman a teacher, and all their hearers brave and honest thinkers, then, and not until then, will the dream of the poet, patriot, philanthropist, and philosopher become a real and blessed truth." And then this: "Let us forget that we are Baptists, Methodists, Catholics, Presbyterians, or free thinkers,